Talk about rejection for a minute. When you pitch something, and I know you're not pitching as much now, but when you early on you'd pitch something and if it would get rejected, did that bother you, or did you just look at as a part of the business and more like, okay, it's numbers. I'm going to put X amount of pitches up there statistically. Y percentage of them are going to get rejected. So I guess related to that, my question is really like, how did you handle, or how do you handle rejection in situations like that?
Yeah, this is I love this question,
Oh,
and
cool.
there's so much I want to talk about
Awesome.
regarding rejection and pitches too, and so rejection. I mean, it's so important. It's so important in your in growing and making your craft better. Um, yeah, it's like mistakes. You have to, but the thing is, well, the good news is that actually to go back, they're not mistakes. They're rejections. There are other people thinking it's not going to work this time, but it might work for something else. It's just it's not a big deal. A lot of the stuff in the early stages that for me were rejected. I don't know, some cue for that was meant for an advertisement or maybe even to get a gig scoring a film. Years later, because I thought it was a good idea and it just didn't work for that project, for those images.
Right.
But it was very useful years later for a TV show, and all of a sudden became the theme of that show. So
That's awesome.
First of all, you should never think it's, you don't delete it. It's never something that that isn't going to be useful. You gotta think of it as something you made. If it's always, it can always be useful, is what I'm trying to say. And but you, at the same time, you can learn oh, what is it that for them, didn't work in that I could have done differently. And so of course you learn so much from thinking about that stuff. And I would add, so when talking about pitching, I don't really pitch so much anymore for anything. I don't know if it's something that I don't quite believe in so much anymore. I know you have to do it sometimes, but just to take an example of something that happened to me recently. Of course, I'm not going to put any names or, but
you can.
I was asked to pitch to get because they sometimes or a lot of times producers, they're producers and directors, they have this new project, and then they get this money from whoever, Netflix, Amazon, whatever, and it's a new show. It's like there's so much in it. There's so much at stake. They're so nervous about everything, and okay, we need a composer, but we have that amount for a budget. It's not so much. Okay, we're gonna look at a few people, and then they want everybody to pitch at some point, and but every the directors, in that case it was two people, and I had a Zoom chat with them. I thought the Zoom chat went great. They came in, they were from LA, so it's kind of they're in a different world. They have a different pace. They're like, yeah, this and that. It's gonna be this. Yeah. And but it's all good, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, sending them some of my music, and they listen to it, they like it, they and then they want to hear it, or they want to hear what you could do on two specific scenes. And then so, we want you to know that we're talking to a few composers, and this is this is the first season of the show for us, and they're asking us
They
for
wanted free
some.
samples, basically.
Well, yeah, and they're like, everybody's doing it. Every composer is pitching in, and can you do this? This is, I don't know, Wednesday, and we need this by Saturday.
Dude, this is not Costco. Do they know that?
Yeah, well,
You're not walking around the aisle grabbing egg rolls or something.
So my thing with pitching is that I don't feel it's a win-win situation, because I'm gonna be, doing something real fast for you, and what is it gonna do? Like, this is not how it works. Like, well, I mean, it, most not most of the time, a lot of the time, that's how they want it to work, and I kind of understand it too, but I personally have decided not to do it, because I'm not gonna go insane for like 2 days and to do something that's not gonna be good enough for me and not good enough for you. Um, I'd rather, for me, it's like we have a good chat. We talk about um, the project more, the characters, the story, and what we can do with sound to accompany this. And like, I can send you so much music for you to get an idea of the range of what we can do here. Then it's just a matter of trust, and like, if we're gonna do this, then let's do it. Yeah, and then once we're working on the project, we'll work together to get what you want. When and then,
Man, I have so much respect for
you
you for
know what I
doing
mean.
that.
And
Yeah.
Craig, the trust that I'm talking about here is not just one way. That's the thing about pitching.
And
You
you know
know?
what? And you know what? This is what 15 years of doing this allows you to say, and how it gives you the right to think. No, seriously. It's like, hey, man, I got to trust you guys
Well, that's
as
what I'm
much as,
saying.
you got to trust me. This is like you know, because you're going to spend literally 15, 16 hours a day for 2 days creating something you really don't know what they want. You haven't had time to explore anything. And it's almost like closing your eyes and throwing a dart at the dartboard.
Yeah.
How are you going to
and
hit that?
and a bunch of other composers are doing the same thing, and I feel uncomfortable being put in the position of, like, because I'm not in it, like, I don't like competition. I'm not a very competitive person, and I don't like to think of music as something that I need to do in an athletic form, if
Yeah,
I could
yeah,
say.
right,
Um,
right.
and the thing is, and it happened a few times before too, that like a director on the film would say, "Oh well, it's very important. Like, it's my first feature film, so I'm asking a few composers to pitch, to make sure and everything." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if your movie is gonna be good. You're not pitching."
Yeah, where's
It's
it
like,
pitched to you?
yeah, and not to. I don't want to be pretentious or anything, but like, I'll have to attach my name to that project as well, and there's nothing that guarantees me. I think that's where it's a fair deal. It's like, if we're going to do this, let's talk about the creative stuff, and and also if we get along well, if the communication is well, then I don't see why it wouldn't work, because you've heard the music, I've sent you stuff, there's enough there. I think if you're calling me back, it's because there's enough there for you to think and hope that we can do something cool. So that's my whole approach, and my vision of about pitching and stuff like that. Of course, for me, if it was some huge project from, I don't know, like a crazy dream, I've always wanted to score like a thriller, or like a horror, like a dark kind of film. If an opportunity like that would present itself and I would need to pitch for it, I would probably think twice. But yeah, pitching, man, it's like, yeah, at this point, I would rather, I ended up not getting the gig, of course, because all the other composers would
They
do
were
the
willing to
pitch,
play
and
the
I
game.
didn't. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fine. And again, uh, going back to the question about rejection too, in my personal experiences, like all the gigs I ended up not getting, I just felt, and I could see weeks later or years later or whatever, that it wasn't meant for me. You know, I wasn't meant to work on that project, and it's fine. And the project, sometimes they didn't go to the end of it, and sometimes it did, and it became something else, or like something that's fine the way it is, but that's different and not something I was meant for.
Man, thank you. That was such a cool answer. I mean, I have a couple of comments, on things that you said.
Mhm.
The reality is you don't learn when you succeed. Tuition costs extra, man. So the times that you fail, that's when you learn, because you got to go back to the drawing board and like, okay, what happened here? And you
Yeah.
alluded to that, and I agree with it tremendously. The other thing you talked about is fair. You said something like, well, what about you? I had a guy on, I don't know if ever heard of Jeff Rona. He's a pretty successful composer in LA. And he made a comment one time. He said, Craig, you can't score good music over bad film. And, that's a big, important point, because to
It
me,
is.
when I'm doing something with business in any capacity, I want it to be fair. And fair means fair for that guy and fair for me. Fair is a two-way street. It doesn't mean, one of us walks away holding the other guy by the balls. That's not fair. I don't want to be a part of that transaction on either side, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's so true. On in film projects too, it's like a lot of times, I've seen it so many times, when the musician, the composer, a lot of time will come in kind of at the end of the chain, like at the end of the process, and is expected to save a lot of problems, solve a lot of problems in the film, just with the music stuff that they can't, like they've tried everything, but it's like it was shot, it's in the can, it's edited, it's still not doing the effect that they're looking for. So like the music is kind of like the last resort,
Right. You need to
and
save it.
yeah, and they're expecting you like to change everything with the music, which is not always false. Like you can, I believe you can still kind of do that, but it's, I mean, like you said, if there are problems there with that scene, there's only so much you can do with the music too, and it's like that's on them.
Yeah,
It's
man. You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and the other thing I liked what you said was that you want me to. This was what I really comes down to. You want me to pitch, but I got to. I don't know anything about your movie. You got a bunch of funding, great, but I got to attach my name to this. And how do you, when you choose a new dentist, like, do you go in there and say, hey, listen, man, can you give me some free samples of your dental work? That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
When you go to a lawyer, hey man, I'd like to just review some of your typical legal documents before we start work. It tell you to go to hell. Do that with a
Yeah.
New York lawyer. See how long your meeting lasts, right? You have to make a decision based on however you make decisions, gut feel, referral, which they had referral to you. They have all your music. Like, there's a burden on the decision maker at a certain point in time to like just make a decision of trust and then work together. And that's what music is about anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once you start working on the project, then of course you start sending stuff. It's, and you send each other references and this and that, and then you build, uh, the sort of, how do you call it, the color pad, or like the whole, what you're
Yeah.
going to be working with, for, to get the signature colors to that movie or that project or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.